All right, today we're going to start talking about money. Who doesn't like money? Who doesn't like to have money? Who doesn't like spending money? Money, money, money. And the math we're going to be learning over the next week or so all has to do with how we use money. So here is a real-world link on page 151 that says, Alonzo plans to buy a new kayak that costs $2,100. But when he buys the kayak, it actually costs more because he lives in a county where there is a 7% sales tax. You can find the amount of tax on an item by multiplying the price by its tax percentage. Just remember, when you multiply by that tax percentage, you have to do it as a decimal. Otherwise, you're going to have a way bigger number than you should. So let's take a look at Alonzo's situation here. The kayak cost $2,100. In our percentage situations where we have a part, a whole, and a percent, the cost of the kayak is the whole. So $2,100. It says the sales tax percent is 7%. We would write that as a decimal, 0.07, and then we would multiply these two numbers together to get the part that is the tax. And I'm going to use a little t for tax here. And so we multiply those together, and I pull out my handy dandy calculator, which I should have had ready before I started recording this, and I take and I multiply 0.07 times 2100, and I get $147 is my tax. That sounds like a lot, but it's a larger purchase of $2,100, so it's going to be a little bit higher. The bigger the price of the item that you buy, the more tax you end up paying. It says use the amount from the tax in example 1 to fill in the receipt at the right. Find the total cost Alonzo will pay. So when he takes the kayak up to the cash register, they ring up the $2,100 kayak, and then the computer figures the sales tax, which was $147, and then it also adds those two things together to give you $2,247. The total cost, capital T, total, not little t for tax, capital T for total. Now it says multiply 1.07 times $2,100. How does the results compare to your answer in exercise 2? Why don't you go ahead and do that right now? Take your calculator and multiply 1.07 times $2,100 and see what you get. It should have come up as $2,247 because that 1.07 represents 100% plus 7%, or 107%. You move that decimal point 2 places to the left and you get 1.07. So 100% of the cost gives you $2,100. 7% of the cost gives you $147. So you add those two things together and 1.07 will give you the total cost. So what we actually found here was capital T, the total of $2,247. And notice you did it in just one multiplication problem instead of having to do a multiplication problem and then an addition problem like we did over here with the receipt. Also on Alonzo's kayaking trip, he hires a guide that costs $50. Alonzo wants to give the guide a 10% tip. Explain how to find the amount of the tip. Well, this goes back to what we were doing up here. We just want to find the tip. We don't want to find the cost of the guide and the tip together. We just want to find the tip. So that's a little t. So we're going to take our percentage, 0.1, because we got to move the decimal point point back 2 places, and we're going to multiply it times 50. And you're going to find out that because there's a 0 here and 1 decimal place, I can actually take the 0 away, move the decimal point back 1 place, and it's actually just 1 times 5. So a tip of 10% on a $50 guide would be $5. So let's go on to page 152 and look at some additional examples. Sales tax and total cost. Sales tax is an additional amount of money charged on items that people buy. The total cost of the item is the regular price plus the sales tax. So there's actually 2 things there. Sales tax, which is an additional cost that goes to the government, and then there's the total cost, which is the regular price plus the sales tax. Drew wants to buy exercise equipment that costs $140 and the sales tax is 5.75%. What is the total cost of the equipment? First thing you need to note here is that this sales tax is 5.75% is not the tax. It is a tax rate of 5.75%. So you cannot just take the 5.75 and act like it's money and add it to the dollars of $140. That's going to get you a wrong answer. Plus, you can't take percents and add them to dollars because they are not the same thing. So please do not do that. I've had students in the past that never learn how to deal with percents and money because all they want to do is take the percent rate and add it to the dollars. So please don't do that. In this problem, are we asked to find the tax or are we asked to find the total cost? We're asked to find the total cost. And this is going to be important because sometimes you're asked to find the tax, sometimes you're asked to find the total cost. And which way you do the problem is going to depend on that. Because we're asked to find the total cost, we want to actually find not 5.75% of the cost. We want to find 100% plus 5.75%. We want to find 100% because that's going to give me the actual cost of the equipment, or the $140 when I multiply by it. We want to find 5.75% because that's going to give me the tax. And by adding those 2 percentages together, it will actually give me the total cost. So the total percentage rate is 100 plus 5.75, or 105.75%. I need to turn that into a decimal before I do this problem. And so I'm going to move the decimal point back 2 places, and that's going to give me 1.0575. Yes, it is a big decimal, and yes, you must use the whole thing. Now, we're going to find the total cost by taking our percentage as a decimal, 1.0575, and multiplying it by the cost, $140, which is our whole. And when I do that, I pull out my handy dandy calculator, 1.0575. Make sure you type that in correctly, times 140. You should be doing this with me, by the way. So pick that calculator up and multiply it to give yourself practice multiplying these larger decimals. And you get 148.05. Keeping in mind we are finding the total cost, I need a dollar sign, and I need to double check that I have not 1 decimal place, not 3 decimal places, but 2 decimal places in my answer, so that it comes out to be $148.05. You're going, okay, that doesn't seem too bad, except for that decimal thing, right? We have to move that decimal point, and that gives us a really weird looking decimal. What if you're one of those people that just, you don't deal with the decimal very well? Well, you can still use a proportion to solve these problems. In this case, the total cost represents my part. So That's what I want to put on top. So I'm going to put a capital T on top left-hand side. The whole amount, remember, goes on the bottom in our part over whole equals percent over 100 proportion. So we're going to put the 140, the amount of the whole, on the bottom left. Remember, the percentage always goes on the top right, but in this case, because we are finding total cost, we need to put the 100 plus 5.75 up there, or 105.75. And our percentage always goes over 100. So now we can cross multiply this proportion, and we get 100t is equal to 105.75 times 140. So cross multiply 100t is equal to 105 times 140. Then to get t by itself, we divide by 100 on both sides. And we can multiply that into our calculator, carefully typing everything correctly, 105.75. And again, you should be doing this with me, times 140 divided by 100 equals. And you should have gotten 148.05. You get the same answer, and we did not have to move a decimal. Maybe a little bit more writing, but if you are one of those students that has trouble moving the decimal point and getting the correct answer, the proportion will move the decimal point for you. So that brings you to letter A. And your percentage rate says 5.5. You need to turn that into a decimal before you start multiplying by it. So what would 5.5% be as a decimal? That's right, it's 5.5%. Then you can start doing that problem.